Welcome in to another edition of House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and pinch hitting for Gilbert Manzano once again is Fernando Ramirez, who does it for the Sporting Tribune. Fernando, how many episodes have you seen of the documentary of Aaron Rodgers, the Enigma?
I am at 1.5. I was halfway through all the drugs and all that other stuff that he's doing. That's what I was telling Gilbert the other day. That's what interests me is like one how does he get away with all this stuff and like the piss testing and all this stuff? Like I'm kind of wondering how he does. See, and that's what Gilbert and I always laugh at is that I always think of like the weird stuff. I'm like, how is he allowed to do all these things and still
Yeah.
pass the test that he has to do? But yeah, it's been an interesting doc. I mean, I'm fascinated when a player's kind of different. Like I remember I watched the Kaepernick one. If players have documentaries, I'll watch them just because I'm interested to see like in the Wizard of Oz when you turn the curtain and you see what's
Yes.
behind the curtain.
Right.
I'm actually interested to see what's behind the curtain when it comes to a lot of these players. So it's definitely interesting so far to see the enigma is what he calls it.
Yeah, and kind of talking about since we're here to talk about the Rams too. If you really think about it, there's a lot of conversation about Matthew Stafford. He's already during the bye week. He spent his Sunday at the Fox studio, so it looks like he wants to get into TV. And we saw the whole controversy with him and his wife doing a podcast. So we might see a documentary with Matthew Stafford. I last season before no, was it this season or last
You're
season
gonna
before?
interview that backup Georgia quarterback for that documentary.
Yeah, and then it turned into a whole thing where she had to apologize to the guy who was
Yeah.
the backup because it wasn't him. And I mean, yeah, so there's a lot of stories with quarterbacks and a lot of people want to hear about that. But we're here to preview the reason I asked Fernando about it because we're here to preview this matchup between the Rams and the Jets, two opponents that usually don't get to see each other that often, but there are some storylines. The Rams, since we last talked, the Rams are now in first place in the NFC West. Um, but one of the things we'll discuss. We got plenty to get in here. We have latest news and notes as always, plus storylines for both teams to get into in this matchup. And lastly, we'll do our game predictions. But one of the reasons why I was really intrigued by this matchup, Fernando, was because you had started watching that documentary and you like watching Pat McAfee. He's always on there. So he's someone that, brings up a lot of, I wouldn't say controversy, but it's someone who keeps his name out there when it comes to
Yeah.
the football, side of things. So this will be something that we kind of have to talk about because of it. And for the first time, I think in, I want to say 3 years now, he's had back to back 300 yards passing days. He did it against the Jaguars last week, where you saw Davante Adams go off. But in terms of what have you seen from Aaron Rodgers, um, do you think that this might be his last season, or do you think I know you've been asking where can he go if he doesn't stay with the Jets?
The reason why I feel like he won't retire is because I think he wants to go out on his own terms. Like if he had a season like Brett Favre did, like, and I hate that I always compare it to that, but it just seems like they're so similar. If he had a season like Brett Favre where he makes it to the NFC Championship and he's like, oh, like this is all I could do, then I think Aaron would bow out because he was doing it on his terms. But if he retired this year, it'd be on the terms of the league, basically saying like, "Oh, you suck this year. You're not good enough." And I just think that he's not built like that. He seems like he is built differently.
Hmm.
So I kind of feel like if he ends out this season, like you said, I think he's posted over 300 yards the last two games. I
Hmm.
truly believe that if he ends out the season strong, I think he's going to say, you know what, let me give it one more go and let me see what I got. And then he said today, I think to the press, he's if the Jets draft a quarterback, he's willing to help them out and willing to be a mentor. And I know in the doc they get into this because I just saw a clip from I think it was a Packers fan. Matt LaFleur said that he commended Rodgers because he really took Jordan Love under his wing. He helped him out, and he said that I don't know if Aaron says this in the doc, but uh, I'm pretty sure it'll probably be said at some point. But Aaron didn't get that same treatment from Brett. Brett came in.
Yeah.
Brett said, I'm not gonna coach this guy up to take my job." Same thing Philip Rivers told us in 2000. They were still in San Diego. 2017. That was the year that we had all heard rumors that Anthony Lynn, first year, he wanted Mahomes or he wanted Deshaun Watson. And Philip told us in the trailer still in San Diego, he told us, he's like, I'm not gonna help coach up this young kid to take my job. That's simply not the way
Yeah.
it's built. So yeah, I could definitely see how they're saying it, but as of right now, Rodgers is saying all the right things, and he's telling them, hey, I'm willing to help this guy out if that's what you guys want. But it seems like I think moving forward, he's going to try and be the best teammate possible, the best everything possible, because he knows that if he stays in New York, I mean, you have Davante, you have Garrett, you have everything kind of
Yeah.
there. You just need to build the offense. But long-winded answer, I do think he'll be back.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of talent there, and I think he wants to, make sure. I feel like if he had retired that last season with the Packers, that his legacy was cemented. I think he's kind of it's hit a little bit of a ding here the last 2 seasons, and so we'll see
Well,
what happens.
and
Yeah.
it's not just that; it's also like the stuff on him being with Pat and like
Hmm.
some of the stuff. Like now, I think I haven't really watched as much, but I know he's like feuding supposedly with Ryan Clark, and
Yeah.
there's just little things here and there where you see that he goes at people, people go back at him. For Pat, it's great, and for ESPN, I'm sure it's great because they're getting all the ratings, they're getting the hits. But I'm sure some people have grown tired of Aaron, and I mean, we all know at some point people grew tired of Brett. At some point, people have grown tired of Tom Brady,
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes. Some people they just grow tired of people, and it seems like Aaron is kind of at that point right now where nobody's really. I don't think there's a lot of people hoping that he gets one more chance. I think most people are like, "Yeah, just retire, leave." But I'm sure he's gonna want one more opportunity.
Yeah, we'll see what happens next season. But yeah, I mean, I want to know from as our engagement question, what are the keys for a Rams win on the road versus the Jets? They have a lot of good players on there. Yeah, their season, they're not going to go to the playoffs, but they're trying to play spoiler. They play really well the last two weeks now. It seems like Aaron Rodgers has found something. He's found that chemistry with Davante Adams. So, and we'll get into it because that's going to be a big matchup for this Rams defense to try to stop. And so, especially as you try to make the playoffs here, you got 3 games to go. This is one you don't want to look. You don't want to look ahead to Fernando, and so
Yeah.
it's going to be one that is really important for the Rams if they want to make the playoffs.
Well, and the Jets can play spoilers the next 3 weeks. They have
Yeah,
them, they have the Bills, and with the Bills, I mean, it's just the seeding that they could play
right.
spoiler at. And then because I think if the Chiefs lose the next two and the Bills win the next two, the Bills are the number 1 seed, so
Mm-hmm.
they could play spoiler. And then the last game, they get Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins going there. So easily, I mean, unless the Chargers win tomorrow and then the Broncos win next week, they still would be
Yep.
essentially fighting for a playoff spot. So
All the Chargers and the Broncos need is one more win. If
yeah,
one of those two teams loses out, then it lets the Bengals, it lets the Colts, if any of those teams go on
the
a winning
Dolphins,
streak
yeah.
here, yeah, they get back into it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So they could play spoiler. And it starts this Sunday against the Rams. I mean, I already saw one of the keys to victory in mine is how many hound warmers are you going to have
yeah,
in your pouch? Because today was 53 degrees, tomorrow 44, Friday 40, Saturday 34, and then Sunday it's going to be at its coldest point at 26 degrees. It could drop to 13 is the low. So that's going to be something where it might be a Kyron Williams kind of day for the Rams.
Yeah, and especially if I know a lot of fantasy owners who are in the playoffs. I know we've been getting a lot of questions about Cooper Cup. I do not see this being a a, a
Dude,
big a big Cooper Cup.
last week I heard a lot of people were pissed at Cooper Cup.
Yeah, because he had 0 points, he has 0 catches. So not a lot of teams went down in the playoffs because of Cooper Cup. So yeah, I expect this to be a low scoring game, and we'll get into it. But let's get to the Rams and Jets news and notes plus the injury report. Just a couple of notes as we talked about the Rams are now in first place because the Seahawks lost versus the Packers, and so that's something to kind of think about in terms of what happens the next 3 weeks. As we talked about, Fernando, is you know they they control their own destiny here in terms of to get into the playoffs. If they win the three, they're the division champion. So that's huge for them. And honestly, like one other thing that kind of came up that I thought about was if it happens, if Sean McVay is able to get the Rams into the playoffs, he will become the first coach who had his team be under 3 games under 500, go on to make the playoffs in back-to-back seasons. So that is a huge accomplishment for Sean McVay, and it tells you that he is not only a guy that has all the talent, but can also develop talent. So I thought that would be something big for him and his coaching style.
Yeah, no, and I mean, we all know what Sean's done. He's revolutionized the NFL, and we had Eric Williams on today on What's Up Bolts at around 1. By the way, at 1 o'clock we had a bunch of people in there. I was surprised. I'm like, is
Yeah.
everybody on their lunch break or something? Like, what are we, like? I didn't think we were gonna have almost anybody in there. But Eric said that if the Chargers ended up getting rid of Greg Roman, if Jim thought, hey, you know what, this isn't going to work, we need something new, something innovative, something. Eric pointed right at the Sean McVay system, and he said it. The pre-snap motion just
Hmm.
does so much. And I was watching it against the 49ers. They would bring, and they couldn't stop it. Or for some reason, I don't know what they were doing, but they would put Cooper Cup out wide to the left, the tight end right to Matthew Stafford's left. They'd bring
Hmm.
Puka in motion, and then he'd roll out, and Puka would be underneath, ready to go just for a dump off, and Puka would turn it into a 10 or 15-yard gain. So little things like that is just what Sean's been able to revolutionize with this offense. So now he even does the pre-snap motions with, even if they're going to run the football, and oh, hey, guess what? That ends up getting them still, like that confuses them. They have to now consider the end arounds. They have to consider all that stuff. So it's pretty smart. What I mean, I think Andy Reid kind of started it a couple of years ago, and then Sean McVay's kind of perfected it. So he's done an incredible job changing up his offense, changed it from Jared Goff to now Matthew Stafford, and now like Eric said when he was on with us, he wants to see a little bit more running of the football.
Yes.
But I think Sean's kind of listened to him lately, and I think Kyron has had 50 to 55
Carry.
55 carries since the last time I was on. So
Yeah.
he listened to Eric.
Yeah, and I mean, he's had over 100 yards now the last 2 games, which is something that they really needed. And then as you talked about with the whole motion too, using that jet sweep has been really good, especially having Puka. Sometimes I get a little nervous for them because you want to make sure you keep Puka healthy, especially since he banged his knee early in the season, but he seems to just thrive on contact. And so you don't want to take that away from Puka. And then one more thing, I know we talked about it, but I thought it was very, very important was Cooper Cup's blocking. And I
Oh
know a
yeah.
lot of people, as I said, they weren't happy with the fact that he had 0 points in fantasy, but Ram fans don't care about that. He was out there blocking. You saw it in that touchdown against the game winning touchdown by Puka. He put a great block there, and so that's him being unselfish. You see other guys around the league right now like a Debo Samuel, you see AJ Brown, popping off about not being involved in the passing game. You don't even see that from Cooper Cup. So I mean, he's a pro's pro, and that's why he's well respected in this organization.
Well, and I get the whole fantasy aspect of it, but like you said, these guys don't care. They care
Yeah.
about one thing, and that's winning. So they
Hmm.
don't care about your fantasy points. They don't care about all this stuff. Like I remember Anthony Lynn a couple years ago. Anthony Lynn was asked about that if like fantasy ever takes any, and he's like, no, hell no. He's like, I
Yeah.
could care less if your fantasy team is winning, losing, whatever it is. He's like, all I care about is winning football games, and that's 1000% correct. So I'm sure the Rams would take, and Rams fans would take Cooper Cup with 0 catches, them only scoring 12 points, but them being on the winning side of it. So
Hmm.
I 1000% think they'll take that. And what the Rams showed against the 49ers and against the Bills is that they can win different ways. They can win
Hmm.
ugly, they can win in a shootout. So either way, that's exactly what you're going to get in the playoffs. And I told Gilbert on Monday
Monday.
that
Yep.
my biggest takeaway was that the NFC, I think, is going to be an offensive show in the playoffs. So the Rams have that firepower to be able to do it. They have a great running back. They have two great young receivers, and hey, they may be getting Higbee back, so
Oh yeah.
that'll only improve. The only thing I told Gilbert is if they could bring him back, number 99,
Yep.
that may catapult them into Super Bowl contention.
Yep.
But that's a big if. And I know Sean told Gary Klein that he just doesn't know. He
Yeah.
said
And
it might be he might not want to do it just because he doesn't want to put him in that situation.
yeah, and it's pretty late. I think I saw Pro Football Talk talking about this, that it's late in terms of him being able to be reinstated back. Plus, you need to give him a couple weeks to get ready, and so that means that you would only use him in the playoffs, and that's the other issue there too, is that
Well,
he
and who do
would
you
he wouldn't
bench?
yeah. And so I mean, he's always ready to go, and like I mentioned, he lives like 10 minutes away from the facility, so if they wanted to, they would. But it's just hard to see him. Every person who's been asked about it, they've all said the same thing. Aaron Donald, he's retired. He's gonna remain retired, and so and why would you want to kind of mess with the young guys
Flow.
that you have on this team right now and the where
Yeah.
they're playing too? So if it was like a Jalen Ramsey who was coming out of a retirement or something where they can use in the secondary, it makes total sense. But your
Yeah,
front
like let's
four
just
is
say one of their young defensive tackles
yes,
ended up getting hurt,
yes,
and it's an Eric Weddle
exactly,
situation where they
yes,
need something like that, then yeah.
yeah,
But this way, why, like you said, why mess up the flow? But I just think I love that Gary Klein asked him
oh yeah.
that question.
And that's why he's a great reporter, honestly,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's I had totally like it slipped my mind, and then I saw him ask him that, and I was like, "That's right. That's why he's the pro there, man,
yeah,
and he's been there for a while now." So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
shout out to Gary Klein because he does great work for the LA Times there. Just getting to the injury report, it was honestly there's not much to go over here. Kobe Durant was a limited participant, and so was Demarcus Robinson with the shoulder. Actually, no, Demarcus Robinson was a full participant with the shoulder. Jordan Whittington was a full participant with the shoulder, and Tyler Higbee with the knee was also a full participant, and so was Davis Allen. So it looks like we should see Tyler Higbee make uh, his season debut, which I'm a little scared for him, just because you and I have talked about this on Compas on the Beat, Fernando, how terrible that field is at MetLife Stadium, and if you're coming back from an injury like a knee injury, that's not the place you want to make your season debut.
Nope.
Um, yeah, so if I'm the Rams, I probably wait another week, but I mean, SoFi isn't any better, so why not just try to go and see how he feels and try to put him out there for a couple of plays? But I wouldn't put too much stress on that knee yet, not at MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, if it's gonna happen somewhere, it would better to happen in your stadium just so
Yeah,
that there's no blame, and you don't want. I mean, I know they don't care, but like you don't want like MetLife to get the bad rap or whatever, especially with
Hmm.
some of the injuries. I mean, we remember in the past it's taken Joe or Nick Bosa. I think when Nick Bosa got injured and he tore his ACL, I think there was numerous players that year
Yeah, it
that
was
had
like three and 49ers. I mean, it was a bunch of players that year where it became a issue, and it still hasn't gone away. So that's also like just get out of there. He just get out of there healthy, because we've seen what that stadium can do to for injuries.
yeah, no, and I just wouldn't trust it. So I completely agree. I may hold him off one more week.
Yeah, and then in terms of the Jets, you got cornerback Michael Carter the second with the back. He did not practice. One of their stud linemen, Elijah Barra Tucker, with an ankle, did not practice as well. And this is the big one. Quinnen Williams, their stud defensive tackle, did not practice with the hamstring. So that's something to kind of monitor. Hamstrings are very tricky, especially when you're talking about a defensive lineman. So we will see what happens. Let's get to some of these comments here that we have. It's awesome. Go ahead and let us know what your keys are for this game, guys, and then also what are your thoughts on whether we'll see Aaron Donald back or not? Should the Rams reach out to him? And then, of course, are you concerned about the Rams playing at MetLife Stadium in that terrible, terrible, uh, I guess, turf, because it causes a lot of injuries?
I wonder what
So
they're
we
gonna
have
do before the World Cup.
yeah, they need to get that fixed. Isn't the final at MetLife, or is it at
No, it's at
Jerry's?
Jerry World.
Is at Jerry's World?
So I'm
Yeah,
wondering what they're gonna do for that one too, because I don't think it's grass. I think it's
no, it's
turf.
not. It's AstroTurf
Yeah,
as
and we
well.
already know Messi doesn't play. Messi doesn't play on turf. Like he'll sit those games out. So they need to figure something out for all those stadiums.
Yeah. Delbert Salgado says pass happy Aaron Rodgers will be great test for the Rams DBs. Obvious pass rush will needs to put Rodgers on his butt. Go Rams. And one of the things we'll get into is the fact that Rodgers does not like to get under center. That was part of the reason why he ended up with the Jets, is because, and why he wanted Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett ran the offense the way he wanted, and that was, without a lot of play action. And so you'll see him do
He used
some
to be
boots.
so good doing it too.
Yeah, which is, I don't understand. Like he was really good with Matt LaFleur, and you're now seeing it with Jordan Love. But yeah,
Yeah,
you need to put some pressure on him, because that Achilles injury, he's not moving well. He's been better lately, but you can also get to him with some pressure. That offensive line has not been really good since he's been there,
no,
even with
no.
some of the new additions. James Wheelock says he will stay retired. Let's not mess with that. With this defense has achieved every week, they put more pressure on quarterback. This week, they will need to put a lot of pressure on Rodgers. AESG says yes, MetLife is known for having terrible injury-prone turf. So yeah, they've had uh, some terrible luck there with injuries, and so you're just trying to make sure you get out of there with no injuries, in this game, and you get out of there with a win, and you come back healthy. ESG says if the Rams stay at the 4 seed, we'll either host the Vikings or the Lions. And I brought this up on Monday. I said like I could it could be where very well be the opposite of what we saw last season, where it's the Rams hosting the Lions, because the Vikings are only one game behind the Lions in the NFC North. And if they win out, the Vikings do, they'll win the division, and then that means the Lions most likely are the fifth seed. So you'll get a fourth and a fifth round matchup between the Lions and the Rams at SoFi. So that would be
I would definitely ask to
cover that
cover that.
game.
I think that
Yeah.
would be something really interesting because they gave him hell last year, Matthew Stafford and the Rams. So I want to see how the Rams fans would receive golf back here for a playoff game. So because no, Goff gave them at least a Super Bowl berth, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really interested to see what they would have for him. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and it would be the Rams finally getting to host the Lions as opposed to, you saw that in the playoffs. They had to go to Detroit, and then to start the season, they had to go to Detroit. And, one game came down to the last possession, and then the next one went, into overtime where, the Rams never got to see the ball. So they match up well with the Lions, perhaps probably the best team outside of the Buccaneers, because the Buccaneers beat both the Lions and the Eagles, who have been the best two teams in the NFC so far this season. But don't sleep on the Vikings and don't sleep on the Packers, because, as you said, it's going to be a gauntlet for the NFC. Every matchup is going to be really, really interesting, starting off with Wild Card Weekend, because I mean, whoever, outside of whoever gets the number one seed, um, that matchup on Wild Card Weekend is going to be really interesting in the NFC. They're going to be a must watch for sure. A lot more than the AFC, that's for sure. One more comment here from ESG says, I heard something that had to happen by December 13th that the Rams didn't do in order to bring back Aaron Donald. So, yeah, the deadline was December 13th. That's also what I heard from PFP there, from Pro Football Talk. And so, yeah, it doesn't sound, and like I said, I still like the question from Gary Klein there, because you never know. I mean, there's always loopholes where you can get guys to come back. You just never know.
Weddle
So
came back the week before the season ended.
right, exactly. But had he retired?
Yeah, he had to
Yeah,
put his reinstatement papers in and everything. The only thing is, Weddle retired as a free agent. In a sense, like he retired as a free agent in a sense. Aaron Donald, I think, is still under contract
right.
with the Rams. So there might still be a loophole, because they just came out and said that Calais Campbell might get cut by the
The
Dolphins if they
Dolphins.
get eliminated, and that he to go find a contender. So, but I agree. I mean, I in a sense agree with Michael. The AD stuff, I understand. The OBJ, I don't understand at all. Why would
Yes.
you want to kill the offensive
Yeah.
flow that they have right now? The first
Yeah.
part, I get it. Like, fans would love to see him come back. That's why I told Gilbert, do it as like a WWE thing. Don't tell anybody. Just have him show up to the stadium and running out of the tunnel. But no, I completely understand why fans are asking about AD, because they said, and the problem is that they're the ones that have kept it open. Les
Yes.
Snead,
Yes.
Sean McVay, even AD himself on a podcast, I think, said they've kept the door open. So when you keep the door open,
And the
that's
locker,
why
the
people are gonna knock on the door and ask, "Hey, is there still candy left in the
yep.
jar or not? Or is Halloween over?" So that's
Yeah.
the reason why people are still asking about AD.
Yeah, and he still has a locker room, and I mean, like he still has a
A locker. Yeah, his
yeah,
locker is still
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's the other reason too. So, I mean, like I said, I just don't think it's gonna happen, but who knows? Like you said, if there is an injury to one of those guys, I can see it happening. Otherwise, we'll find out later on what happens in terms of whether or not he put in his papers to be reinstated. So, and this is to Alexander H's comment here. Says, second, ESG, the time for them to announce his retirement on retirement pass, we would need to release, but that would open him up to waivers. The other thing I remember, I forget the player who just unretired too, that signed with the
Oh,
Chiefs.
uh, sign with the Chiefs?
Yeah, he signed with the Chiefs. He was with the Texans, and then he was a free agent, and then unretired and signed with the Chiefs. If I'm not mistaken.
Not DJ Humphries, the left tackle. No.
No, no, that was he was the tackle from Arizona. It was a
Um.
cornerback, or a
Oh. Oh.
safety,
Oh. 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 Hold on.
and it just happened. Yeah, he just signed with
He's
the
a
Chiefs too.
cornerback. He's a
Yes,
cornerback. He won a Super Bowl with them. Steven Nelson.
yeah, Steven Nelson.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, and the Dolphins just did it too. With that pass rusher that won a Super Bowl Shaq Barrett.
Yep.
He had retired and he just came back and
Yeah.
was with the Dolphins, but
But
the
both of
Dolphins
those
did
guys
not
were free
reinstate him.
agents, like you said.
Yeah,
Like that's the difference. And the
yeah,
Rams have
Yeah.
Aaron Donalds. That's why you would need to put him on waivers, which anybody can claim him. You know somebody's going to claim him. That's the problem. So there's
yeah.
a lot to
Yeah.
kind of go over there. So I think that's the thing. One more here from ESG. He says, I think the Rams being the 4th seed would be better. I'd rather play the banged up Detroit Lions instead of the Packers. And I think that we'll talk about this because I think the Packers are one of those teams that just don't match up well with the Rams, and that's someone you kind of want to avoid.
Because they have
It,
Josh. When you have a good run game and you have good receivers, and LaFleur comes from the Sean McVay tree. I mean, and the
mhm,
Mike Shanahan tree and all that. That would just it's like basically playing yourself. So
yeah,
that's that's rough and it'd be tough to ask Sean McVay to do all that. But yeah, no, I don't think the Rams. I think the Rams match up better with just Jamar Gibbs and not David. Do you see David Montgomery's now asking for a third opinion on his?
yeah,
Yeah, no,
on
that's
his
not a
knee,
good.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think they match up better against Detroit than they do Green Bay.
yeah. And if you want to face another team, it would be the Vikings. I just don't think you want to see the Packers or the Eagles, and we'll get into why that is. All right, let's get to the Rams and Jets storylines. Let's start off with the Jets first. So the Jets fire their head coach and GM before Thanksgiving, and Aaron Rodgers isn't guaranteed. We talked about it at the opening of the show. We don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers going forward. You also have Davante Adams, who they traded for from the Raiders. So their careers are up in the air. We'll see what happens. It might be a one and done for Davante Adams, but there
Half
is a
and
lot of
done.
talent on here, right, Fernando?
Yeah.
But I guess my first question to you is, who is to blame for the Jets mess the past 2 years?
Woody
Do-
Johnson.
yeah,
Woody Johnson. You've done all this. You're like you haven't made the playoffs in 14 years. Like there, it's ownership at this point, and they keep on hiring general managers that just don't seem to click. They just they can't. They haven't been able to do anything, and I mean they've spent money. They've gone out and they've drafted well, but they just can't put it together. And another thing is too, they don't have patience. I mean,
yeah,
they don't have patience with any other head coaches. Look at Bowles. Bowles is now over with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he's a great head coach now. Yeah, he was with the Jets. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's with
yeah.
the he's with the Bucks now, and look at how well they're playing, and they've been really good. So I definitely think that they have no patience. They haven't hired the right guys. It starts with hiring a great general manager or a good general manager, and then seeing what moving pieces you can go and get. I thought obviously the general manager or the guy that just signed with the Commanders, the general manager, I thought he would have done a good job in New York. But New York ended up keeping Joe Douglas last year. I thought they were going to fire him, and I thought, oh, maybe the dude from the 49, Adam Peters, I think he would have done a good job in New York, but they decided not to go that route. But I definitely think that they need somebody to go in there and be a good be a strong general manager and make the tough decisions and don't go based off of uh relationships and that's the one thing I've always talked about. The NFL is you can't do stuff and go based off of feelings or relationships. You have to do what's best for the team. I think they need to bring in a complete outsider, bring him in, poach him from either the Rams or the Chiefs or like a good team, bring him in and have him clean house because it has not worked whatsoever for them. And the closest thing they've gotten to is 7-9. So yeah, they haven't been good.
Yeah, and I think part of it, to your point, Fernando, is the fact that I heard a rumor, and I've seen some people talking about this, but I don't know how much of it is true. But supposedly that one of Woody Johnson's son, which is the youngest guy, I think he's like 19 or 20 is actually running the team, which would be crazy to if it was true. But we never know with these things. But I'm with you. I think you need to kind of clean house here. You need to start over. And you need to see what you have out there that you can bring in. You have Mike Brable out there. You have other guys who would be. I thought the other thing that I heard late. I don't know if you heard this too, but that Bill Belichick checked in
Yep.
with the
With the
former
Jets.
GM Tenenbaum to
Yeah.
see if there was any interest from the Jets, and then he couldn't wait, so he took the North Carolina job. So there's also that, but I mean, and then you look at someone like Sam Darnold out there doing really well with the Vikings. It just tells you that it's an institutional thing when you're starting to see other guys doing well, and when you should have been a little bit more patient with some guys and there's no structure there. I'm with you. It starts on the
Well,
top with Woody Johnson.
and Gilbert brought this up on Tuesday, no Monday, when it was just him and I. He said his thought process is maybe hire Mike Vrabel and do what Jim Harbaugh did, have him go hire the general manager and bring somebody in place, because Mike Vrabel and the GM in Tennessee did not get along whatsoever. And we
Yeah,
saw Jim Harbaugh did not get along well with the general manager, Trent Baalke, when they were in San Francisco. So
yeah,
maybe that is the route to go. Maybe you have you hire your new head coach and you tell him, hey, what do you think we should do? Sit down with everybody, all the candidates, and then you guys choose a general manager like that, because clearly the way things have been going, it hasn't worked. So maybe you change something
yeah.
up. But yeah, no, it's been, I think probably their best years are when Woody Johnson was the ambassador of the UK, and he kind of
Right.
stepped away from the Jets, and I think his brother took over, and his brother actually didn't do a bad job during that time.
Yeah, because he let football people make the
Yeah,
decisions, and there was that whole thing about Woody Johnson saying that, allegedly saying that he wanted to sit or bench Aaron Rodgers. I think
yeah,
after week 4 or something. So
yeah.
you never know with these things, but kind of switching things up here in terms of the Jets. Well, this will be the next thing that we'll talk about, but there's plenty of talent on this team. I mean, we've talked about it. You have Davante Adams, you have Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Quinn Williams. There's talent up and down this roster, but and we kind of got into it there. But how should they go about hiring a GM and head coach? I know you talked about someone like Brable, but what else can they do to kind of fix it? Do they just need to do a complete overhaul?
They're such a mess. I think Woody Johnson needs to give up power and just be like,
Yeah.
hey, like, let me bring in somebody that could really navigate this organization for the next few years. Aren't they the team that has the 33rd helping them hire their next general manager?
Yes. Yeah. That's
Oh yeah,
Mike
no.
Tannenbaum is one of those
Yeah.
guys, and yeah,
Yeah, I don't like that. I mean, I
yeah,
remember a couple of years ago, the Chargers in 2012, 2013, when they hired Mike McCoy, they went and got Ron Wolf, former executive of the Green Bay Packers and all this stuff. And they got him, and they decided on Mike McCoy because Peyton Manning put in a call for him and said, hey, this is the guy. You guys should go get him. And the Chargers ended up he was with the Broncos at the time,
yeah.
and yeah, it was not the best of situations, but yeah, I just don't know. They're gonna have to do something completely different. Woody Johnson has to give up power. I think they need to tell the 33rd, hey, thanks, but no thanks. The 33rd is the same team that said that they should trade for Myles Garrett and they should give up Jamari Gibbs. They
Yeah.
had a trade scenario and they traded
Yeah, and wasn't there
two
like some
first round
other
picks
like thing
and
too where it was a big controversy
yeah.
where they were already like looking at 8 candidates to be the next head coach, and then they got kind of in trouble because they were like a week later they were hired, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, this was done like a week
Without
before."
knowing. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
no.
so
Yeah,
it's just a mess.
yeah. The Jets are gonna compete, stay being a mess until Woody Johnson takes his spoon out of the soup and hires somebody a chef to actually be the lead dog for his team. So And that's what sucks until you have a revelation. I mean, we've seen it with other teams. I mean, the team that I cover, I know that a lot of fans for years were frustrated. I don't know what happened that they finally snapped. They hired the big dog that was out there. But that's what it takes sometimes. I mean, I remember when the Rams hired Sean McVay, nobody knew who he was. Like
Yeah.
everybody's like, who's this 30-year-old from like I still remember Twitter kind of melted down that day because they're like, why would they hire a 30-year-old? Like, who
Yeah.
is this guy and everything? And that first year, he took off running, and everybody's like, okay, maybe this guy has something. Second year, I think, is when they made it to the Super Bowl. So,
Mhm.
or third year, but second or third, I can't remember which one, but it was a third. But yeah, he was just really impressive, and who knows, maybe they need to do something like that. I just don't think a guy like Ben Johnson would take that job. I think, I don't think there. I think it's going to be very hard to steer a top tier candidate to go over there and want to take that job.
And that's the other thing that I'm always surprised with in when it comes to the coaching cycle is if you're gonna fire somebody, which they were the first team to fire their coach this season, is you got to know who you're gonna replace them with. If you don't, if you're hiring a firm to do it, you're
Yeah,
just already it's a losing battle. It just feels like, and so you know, we'll see what happens with the Jets. I mean, they haven't. It seems like they haven't been relevant since 1969, since they, and yeah, especially when you live in New York, it's gotta suck, having your team suck for so many years. And I'm not gonna root for New York to get better, but just I know that the NFL would like to see, the other New York team, one of the New York teams, actually do well because
yeah.
it's a big city there. So but we'll see what happens there. Now let's move on to the Rams. Since we didn't get to it on Compas on the Beat, Fernando, I kind of wanted to use this here on House of Horns, and it has to do with the Rams and what is the worst possible matchup for the Rams. If they get into the playoffs. Um, what are your thoughts? What do you think would be the worst? Give me the. We kind of talked about what would be their best matchup. We already said like someone like a team like the Lions would be a good matchup, especially since they're going to be at home versus at home, versus any team. Whether it's like I said, one of the teams from the NFC North, whether it's the Vikings, the Packers, or the Lions, but who would be the worst possible matchup at any point in the playoffs?
Packers. I think the Packers would be the toughest just because you've already played the Lions before and the Lions are hurt. You've
Yeah,
already played the Eagles and you got creamed by them, but I think you
mhm,
can make the necessary adjustments. You learn more off of a loss
yeah,
than you do a victory. Even though the Eagles defense is really um even though the Eagles are a really good team, but I think I'm going to go more with the Packers just because I think the Packers have the well. See, the thing is, the Eagles have exactly the same thing that I'm about to say. So
yeah. It's one
The
A and
Eagles, and
one
the
B, right?
yeah, the Eagles and the Packers are their two. I can't choose either one, but the Eagles and the Packers both have good offenses. The Eagles have a better defense
Mm-hmm.
that flies around. So, and then the running game from both teams, and then the offensive lines from both teams. So I think those are the two worst: the Eagles and the Packers. I think those are the two teams that they do not want to face at all.
Yeah, and we saw what they did to the Seahawks, the Packers, and I mean, as you talked
Because
about,
facing the Eagles would be in Philly also, and that
right?
would be
Exactly.
that'd be really tough.
Yeah, and so like getting the Packers at SoFi, you already went through that. I get it. There was no Puka. You had two of your offensive linemen not playing that game, but you saw what the Eagles did to you, at home,
They didn't have
and
Devonta Smith.
yes,
Yeah,
and Vic Fangio just for some reason has I brought this up to Gilbert when we were talking about that matchup, and Vic Fangio was the first one to kind of figure out Sean McVay, and he did it with the Bears, and then Bill Belichick used it in the Super Bowl to pretty much destroy the Rams there and limit them to their worst offensive output, that we've seen in not only the regular season until what was it, a couple weeks ago, where it was the first time he had been shut out, but the other time was against Bill Belichick and the Patriots in the Super Bowl. So Big Fangio seems to have his number there too. So that's another thing. I don't. If I'm a Chargers fan, I do not want to see them go up against a Big Fangio defense because he's had his number against Sean McVay. So if
Yeah.
yeah, that's the team I would want to avoid at any point in the playoffs. So if you just want the Eagles to be on the other side of the bracket and hopefully somebody beats them because it's tough. So and then as all good things says here too, he's like Eagles would be the worst. Jacobs will be the easier assignment than Barkley. So I mean, they're both going to be tough if we're being completely honest. Like I
Yeah.
said, it's 1A and 1B. It's going to be a tough situation, but that's why I think I know we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but these are things that you kind of start want to, you want to kind of start to see too. Yeah. And ESG says Big Fangio style defense gives Kyle Shanahan problems. Also, it's this, that's the thing. It's not just the whole, uh, things didn't work out with the Dolphins last season, but now that look at what
That's
he's
'cause,
done. He's done
that
a
has to
great
be
job.
'cause that has to be because of the players.
Yeah, it has to be because look at what he's doing with the Eagles. And the Eagles, they couldn't tackle anybody, Fernando, in the last season. I mean, and they had no linebackers. They bring in this guy from the Saints on a free agent contract, and then he balls out because part of the reason they signed Huff, what was his name?
Oh,
Something Huff.
Michael or no, Michael Huff. That's a
Yeah,
former safety.
right.
Bryce Huff
Bryce Huff, right?
from
So
the
he's
no,
there. That
that's when they traded Hassan Reddick to the
Riddick.
Jets and they brought
Right,
him in.
and so he gets hurt, and then that opens up things for Bond, the linebacker that they picked up from the Saints, and he's been balling. So, yeah, yeah, and also all good things makes a good point. On the flip side, most teams will also not
Oh,
would want to avoid the Rams.
1000%.
Yeah, and
You don't want
yeah,
to play
because
them
of what they can do offensively. Look at what they did to the Bills.
and the
You know,
experience.
yeah, exactly. And then Sean McVay, I mean, is there a better matchup in terms of Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford that can equal what they have in the NFC? Like I can go, you can say Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. Who are you taking? It's like
Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford.
yeah. So you just go down the line with a lot of these guys, and so they all
Like
have the advantage in the playoffs.
I
It
would take
it
Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford probably against any combination that you give me.
Yeah, in the NFC, right?
That's
So
probably the
yeah,
number one. That's probably my number one right now. Yeah, no, there's no other like even Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. Like, there's a reason, and that's what I was telling a Lions fan the other day. There's a reason why he traded Jared Goff away. Like, he had 3 years of him. He couldn't win. Like, they could win, but they couldn't win a Super Bowl. He knew he needed a different style to be able to win a Super Bowl. So what did he do? He went out with, he knew he needed Matthew Stafford. He brought him in, and he definitely could. He ended up winning a Super Bowl. So I 1000% believe that Sean McVay and if we're going based off a quarterback and head coach, that's the combination that you want in these playoffs. But Vic, before you answer,
yeah,
everybody hit that like button. Please hit the like button. That definitely
yep.
helps the algorithm. Please pound that like button. And Vic, go ahead.
Thank you. And then Steve On, as he said, Rams didn't even have Havenstein versus Philly, which when he hasn't played, they haven't played well. That protection was a big issue in that game, and I outside of that game, I don't think I need to check this, but Matthew Stafford hasn't been sacked since then, and then before that, he had gone 2 games without being sacked. So, I mean, having Havenstein in there is a big thing to protect his right side there as well. So, yeah, good chat there with everybody. Thank you guys for your feedback. That's really awesome. And as Fernando said, hit that like button. We really appreciate that because it helps with the algorithm. All right, Fernando, last thing here. What's the key to a Rams win and a matchup to watch for you?
hand warmers. Make sure that they are wearing hand warmers. It's gonna be cold. It's the coldest
Yes.
point that we're gonna see. It's gonna be the coldest point that we see this week in New York. But key to victory: run the football.
Yeah.
Run that football. Tire them out. If Quentin Williams doesn't play, I don't even think Matthew Stafford should drop back at all. Because they don't have CJ Mosley. I think they put him on IR. They're missing a lot of key players, so I would just run that football. A matchup to watch is the two receivers of the Jets against the secondary of the Rams. If you look back at Aaron Rodgers' game against Jacksonville, it was all home run plays.
Mm-hmm.
He was 16 of 30 for 289 and 3 touchdowns. 71 of those yards came on that touchdown throw to Davante Adams. So they're not really, their highest rusher was Aaron Rodgers with 6 carries for 45 yards. Wow, he actually started running the football again. That's really interesting. That
Mm-hmm.
might add a different dynamic to him. Brees Hall had 9 carries for 30 yards and 1 touchdown. So there, you can throw against them. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr., 10 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Strange had 11 catches, 73 yards. So they're going to be able to throw on them. Well, who knows with the cold and the wind and everything, but they need to be careful with the home run plays because that's definitely what they need to. Aaron Rodgers on an ayahuasca trip will be something to watch. But I definitely think all good things. You're a funny dude. But I definitely think that that's a matchup to watch. The Rams secondary making sure that there's no home run hits against their
Secondary.
receivers. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've seen this from the Rams defenses, their secondary continuing to get beat deep. We didn't see it as much against the 49ers, but we did see it against the Bills. And so that'll be something as long as and I want to get to some of these comments because some of these were really good and I was kind of saving them for this part of the show. Yeah, BSG says something makes me suspicious if Aaron Donald can just come out and clear the rumors of his comeback. Why? I mean, I'm sure he wants to make sure that people talk about him. So he's not gonna say, "Hey guys, I'm not coming back." He's just, he'll let other people, talk about it. And then Michael Armenta says Rams defense needs to knock the arrogance out of our Rodgers. I'm not sure if the Rams have ever been Rodgers though. So that's also something to kind of keep in mind. ESG says the Rams have two things going against him against the Jets. One, Aaron Rodgers has always had his way with them, and two, the Jets are one of those teams we have a hard time with. And the reason
They
they
beat
have
them. Yeah, the Rams beat them on October 28th, 2018. Aaron Rodgers was 18 of 30, 286, 1 touchdown, no picks. But that was the only time. He is 6-1 all time against the Rams, but they've beaten them one time, and that was in 2018.
and that was with Sean McVay. So, and
Yeah.
then the other thing too that I brought it up even before when the schedule came out. I said keep an eye on that Jets game because it was around this time last season that they had to go up against the Giants, and I get it. The Giants don't have
Oh
the
yeah.
talent that the Jets have, but the Jets have been eliminated at this point. You're having to go to the East Coast. You're supposed to win. It was this kind of like what you just mentioned is the environment that's going to be in New York or New Jersey, I guess, and because that's what MetLife Stadium is
Crazy.
at. It was the same exact thing, Fernando, and everybody picked the Rams. Everybody was like, I even said, "Hey, this looks like a trap game. You need to make sure you take care of business." Like Sean McVay has a really good record when traveling to the East Coast and that 10 a.m. game. He has he's won 3/3 of his games in his career. So that's not the that I'm not surprised I won't be surprised if they win this game. My thing is that this is going to be a low scoring game. It's going to be one of those games that's going to be ugly, like you said. But I just I just have a bad feeling about this game in terms of the Rams, not coming out like we've seen them come out,
Yep.
you know,
Vic, you
lately.
can say what you want to say. The NFL is going to try and screw the Rams, get it so that last week, that Sunday night game is Seahawks versus Rams. It's for all the marbles, and the winner goes to the playoffs. So, Seigneur vive moi. Bonjour. Ça va?
Well, we will see what happens too, because the other thing too is if the Vikings continue to win, that might be the Sunday night game, the Lions and the Vikings. So we'll see. I mean, maybe I thought, what did you say? I thought I was gonna see Gilberto. Yeah,
no,
he's on baby duty this week, so
you got an upgrade, Seigneur Vivement. You got an upgrade. Je vais super bien et toi? Comme ci, comme ça. I'm a little tired. I'm waiting for Papa Noel to show up, Seigneur Vivement. Papa Noel.
But for me, Fernando, I'm gonna say my matchup to watch is that front four. I mean, they need to put pressure on the final score, 2-3 final score. Rams win. My how good things. Hey, that's all that matters, especially after last week where they won 12-6. So yeah, that might be one of those. But for me, like I said, that front four, they need to create pressure against that offensive line and make sure that they don't the French to visit the first okay, the French to visit the 51st.
So I've been getting at Seigneur Vivement because I guess there was something between Trudeau and Trump, and he said, "Well, we can welcome you as the 51st state." So the other day, Seigneur Vivement jumps up on What's Up Bolts, and I was like, "Seigneur Vivement, welcome to the United States. You're our 51st state." And he just he lost it. He started laughing. He just kept on putting LOL and in all caps and everything. And he's like, "That is amazing." I was like, "Welcome, Seigneur Vivement. You have a blue passport now." So yeah, we're just joking around with him. So that's why
I've been wanting to go to Vancouver. It'll be a lot easier to go now.
Look, there he goes. He's remembering that day. I know. That's what I've been. Vancouver, I heard, is gorgeous. I think Seigneur Vivement. I don't want to butcher where he lives. I think he lives near Montreal, if I'm not mistaken. But he told me he's a couple hours away from Toronto. So
there's also Quebec, Ottawa.
No. So, Canada is beautiful. If they have a Papa Noel Montreal, yes, I knew it. If they had a what's it called? A Papa Noel what's it called? Like a village, I would definitely go visit it. What is it called? They're like the North Pole kind of it. You know how different?
I know what you're talking about. I don't know what it's called, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think there's
like a Santa's
workshop, and like there's some states, there are some cities that have it. I know there's one in Sweden that I saw, and I was like, oh, I definitely want to visit one. But I think there's one, Village du Père Noel. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah. But my bad. Go ahead, Vic. You were finishing.
Yeah, we and all good things said Sauce versus Puka matchup will be interesting. That's one to kind of keep an eye on too. But Sauce hasn't been as good this season.
No,
that's the problem.
No, when it started kind of going bad is when Robert Saleh left.
Yep.
That's exactly where it went bad. Oh, Seigneur Vivement. Sauce will get cooked.
Yeah. It's been one of those matchups too where and it doesn't matter who you put on Puka right now, because as you mentioned, they put him in motion, and it's kind of hard to play him one-on-one. I thought the only guy I've seen him play him really well was Jalen Ramsey, and that's part of well, as Mookie says, this Sunday will be the Jets Super Bowl. So we will see.
Before we head out, I do have two things for you, Vic. One, so you could see what this is all about.
Oh, wow.
Butterfly is just another term for the caterpillar. It's really the caterpillar the entire time. And caterpillar opens his wings and just cannot fucking believe this is my life now. I get to fly around.
And then one last thing, just to really throw it in there. You know me, Vic. I always have to have these things.
Yeah, I one more here.
Extra stuff for you guys.
Yeah.
Every time you see me, you say that. Don't you say anything else?
Let me think. Discount double check.
Discount double check.
Discount double check.
Discount double check.
No.
Fair enough.
It pays to double check. Save big.
Yeah, that's when those commercials were actually good with him. I'll give him that.
Those
Like
were so
he's been a
good.
lot better.
But it was because of that guy. That guy
Yeah.
made it the whole thing. Like, he was
Yeah, like
funny.
the Patrick Mahomes one have not been good.
No.
Yeah,
no.
they have not. All
Because
good
you
things
need
says.
somebody like that. Like if they put Dan and Dago behind him, like yelling something at
Yeah.
him, like that would be funny. But just when it's him, like the Andy Reid one's funny when he's like, "Are you gonna eat those nuggets?" And
Yes,
he's like,
but
yeah,
that's because you
Andy
said
Reid.
it's not
Yeah.
him. It's
yeah,
the other. Yeah, it's the other.
yeah.
Let's pardon my French, but sauce will be French toast. All good things says Aaron Rodgers will change his number to butterfly. So,
Dude,
yeah, and
looks so high in that video. Holy crap, that is so good.
one last thing here.
Yeah.
The Rams are 3.5-point
Ooh.
favorites. The over/under is 46. Give us your prediction. We have one prediction here that I want to share from one of our viewers here, Fernando. So who do you got? Who's winning this game?
I'll say it'll be close.
Give us your prediction, guys, viewers, whoever.
Nah. I
Give us
say
your score.
it's gonna be the same thing as last year. They're gonna freeze up with this, and I'll say Jets 27, Rams 26.
1 point game, and you're going
Yeah.
with the over in that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have one comment here who's already giving us their score. We have Michael Armenta who says Rams 24, Jets 17. And then you have
Senor
how do you say his
Fismo.
name? Senor Mimois, 28-10 Rams. I like the Rams in this game. I think they, just like I said, I think it's going to be an exact carbon copy of what we saw against the Giants last season, where they're going to struggle, but they're going to win. I think they pull out this win. I think it's going to be like 20-17, something like that, like a field goal from Josh Carty. And all good things too is he's going 17-13 Rams.
Let me just let Rams fans know before they like punch me in the face. I've come on the show 3 times now, and the other 2 times I've picked against the Rams, and they end up winning. So you're
there
welcome.
You go. Yeah, and then last week I picked the Niners to win, and Gilbert picked I picked them to lose, and because I'm like, we're not gonna do this thing where we both pick them to win, and then we end up cursing them. So I'm like, we're not doing that. So I said that they would lose, and then Gilbert was right. He also said it would be the under. He predicted a low scoring game.
Yeah,
ESG said.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, ESG says the Rams played the Giants last year at the same stadium and won and closed them. I say Rams 24-10 Jets. So go ahead, Fernando.
No, I was just gonna say that's the same thing that happened on What's Up Bolts today. Eric went Chargers, Dan went Chargers, and I went Broncos. So we'll see what happens there. But everybody, don't forget to smash the like button. Smash the like button. We appreciate everybody who's jumped on here with us. Don't forget Monday, lunes. I can't say it in French. I forgot. Señor Vivant. My apologies. That was Mercredi. No, that's miércoles. That's Wednesday. No. I'm not even gonna try it anymore. Lundy. Okay, Monday. We're mixing up both shows. We're doing the Four Compas. All of us. Thank you, Steve. We're doing it all together.
Compas.
So yeah, Señor Vivant, I got it. We're gonna do all Four Compas together on Monday. So make sure you guys tune into that. Just because we want to respect your guys' Christmas. And so yeah, all Four Compas. The next 2 weeks, all the Four Compas are gonna be on Monday. So this Monday, the 23rd, and then the next Monday, the 30th. So make sure you guys tune into that. That show is really, I mean, it's been funny. And I watched it back today, and Vic is literally Dan's Captain America. He shields him, and he's like, let him finish the funniest thing ever. So so make sure you guys tune into that. Don't forget Sunday after the game. What about 2 o'clock? You guys will jump on?
we do 4 o'clock because we got to wait on Gilbert to
Oh,
slow
yeah,
write
yeah,
his story
yeah.
and make sure that he gets all his
Yeah.
words in there for SI. So then we join around 4:45.
There you go. So right before the Sunday night game, 4:45, these guys will jump on and do their thing. So make sure
Are
you.
you guys doing the preview for What's Up Bolts on Tuesday? For the next
No, we're doing it on Thursday, actually, the 26th,
Okay.
because we're
I need
having
to talk to Gilbert.
we're having Doug Keat on, and he said the
Oh, okay.
26th would be his best day. So, so yeah, and I didn't want to do it without injury reports and all that other stuff. So
I'm
I
with
thought the
you.
26th would be the best day. So Dan has a couple
Yeah.
questions to Doug about what sorority houses he thinks Bill Belichick's gonna hit when he's down at UNC. So. But yeah, it's gonna be we're gonna do it the 26th just so that
Yeah, I think
we can get
we're
all that
doing
stuff
House
out
of
the way.
Horns. The preview, we're moving it to Thursday as well, the
Yeah.
day after Christmas, because we don't want to do anything on the 24th on Christmas Eve. So that
Well,
makes a
and
lot of sense.
the 25th, he's pretty book solid, so
Yeah.
that's pretty funny. But yeah, appreciate everybody. Thank you guys so much for having me. I like I said, I love jumping on here and talking a little Rams to show my versatility, but definitely appreciate it. We had a lot of people in here. You guys are amazing. You guys are the best. Have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody. You guys are the best. Love you guys, and don't forget to check out everything else on Compas on the Beat Network. Vic, this is all yours now.
How does Gilbert say? Ya nos vamos, pues vámonos.